Hello and welcome to our Awana All Staff meeting. First off, I want to thank each and every one of you for being a volunteer this year for our Awana program. I know it's a little different year and some uncertainties, but with everyone that has volunteered so far, it's been fantastic. And so thank you for volunteering and being part of our mission to reach kids with the gospel of Christ and train them to serve Him. This year we'll look a little different, and tonight the main thing that we want to cover is what does a night in Awana look like in this new normal. And hopefully this won't necessarily be the normal forever, but it will be for a little bit of time at least. So this recording for our staff meeting is being done in two parts. First, just for the simple reason that I forgot to hit the record button right at the beginning of our live staff meeting. So this first part, you are getting a recorded version that I am making up and covering the exact same things that I did in the first part of the staff meeting. And then when this part ends, then you can pick up the rest of it with our live version, which will cover the ending of what a night looks like, plus then the Q&A session where there were a lot of good questions asked, and also some reminders from us to everyone. So you want to make sure you tune in and watch that part of the recording as well. So let's jump right into it and get this part going. So what does a night in Awana look like? So the first thing is the arrival of kids. That will look pretty similar to what it's been in the past, in that the kids will arrive in staggered fashion, just like they have. We are going to open the doors from 6:15 to 6:30 or so for the arrival time. So that's about 15 minutes ahead of when we want to start, which is pretty similar to what we've had in prior years. We're just going to be a little bit more strict this year of not opening the doors till 6:15. And the main reason is simply when the kids come in, we don't want them wandering all around church, interacting with others. We do want them to go straight to their classrooms and stay there. So we are not having a large group opening in the sanctuary this fall. We are going to ask each of the kids as they come in to go directly to their assigned classrooms. They'll take their coats, bags, whatever they have coming in with them, water bottles, and just go straight to their classroom. So I'll get to the assignments here in a little bit, but that's what we've got planned for that. And so with that, we do need leaders present in each of the rooms right around that 6:15 time frame when the kids start to arrive. At least one leader per room is to help keep the kids settled down and stay in their areas. As part of eliminating the large group opening time, then the next step is once we reach 6:30, which when our Awana night will go from 6:30 to 7:30 this year. So when we hit 6:30, then the opening time will take place in each of the classrooms this year rather than in the one large group setting in the sanctuary. So the opening time, we will provide flags of a smaller variety to each of the classrooms, and they will do the flag salutes and the pledges there. We have put written out the two pledges, the American flag and the Awana flag, and have posted them in each of the rooms so that they're there for reference. And so to lead them through that. We will also, via some sort of a group text mechanism or some way, get announcements to each of the directors that they can also issue announcements in the opening part, just like we've always done in the past. It's an optional up to each of the directors whether they want to sing the Awana theme song and do the actions. The music you can just pull up on the phone, get a recording off of YouTube or other options there to be able to sing along with that if desired. Once we get by the opening with a prayer too, presumably, then we'll go right into the remaining part of the hour for large group and small group time. This will be up to the director as to how this will work in terms of splitting that up. So it can look a lot like it did in prior years. So like for Sparks, for example, they would go from opening right to do handbook time, and then they would do large group, the council time. And that would consume the first hour. And that can look and be exactly like it has been in the past that way. Or you can mix and match. You can do large group time and then do small group time, which is what more some of the T&T groups were used to. And the split, because we're not rotating at a certain point in the night, that split between large group time and small group time, there's some flexibility in that. And so if you want to or need to have a little bit longer large group time, you can certainly do that. If you need a little bit more time for the Bible study or getting through handbook time and verses and explaining that to the kids, that's certainly available as well at the discretion of the directors. So throughout that too, we will try to intermingle a little fun time, some fun activities. But in the large group and small group time, particularly the small group time, we will have listeners and a secretary in each of the rooms. So unlike years past where we had one large group of listeners and the kids came to them to say verses, in order to avoid the traffic in the hallways and the larger meeting room there, we are going to split up the listeners, assign them to the different rooms, one or two per room, as we have the number of listeners, and they will be available to listen to verses for that particular age group throughout the night. Now, depending on the number of kids in each of those rooms, the one or two listeners probably won't be able to service and listen to all those verses. So with that, then we are going to authorize and encourage leaders to sign sections this year. So that will be part of it, is the leaders will be welcomed, encouraged to sign sections as well. But the listener will still be there as a resource if the line gets a little long, or if you got a couple kids ready right away to say verses, you can send one over to the listeners to get in line and do that for your group. Another reason why you might want to use the listeners is if you've got a child that comes pretty prepared from their home setting and can go off and say those verses while you work with another child and helping them understand the meaning or the Bible study, whatever the case may be. So you can work with them too a little bit more. So utilize the listeners as you're able, kind of keep an eye out as to how long their line is too, and just kind of work that back and forth. And we'll get the hang of that as the fall goes on, I'm sure. Similarly, secretaries, we will have them, instead of in a common area, we will have them split up one secretary per group that the kids will go to record their sections just like they have in the past. And so that will work similarly. So when they get done or at a convenient point for you and they've said some sections, make sure they go to the secretaries and get that recorded for the evening so we can keep up on that. A couple of things on that. First off, shares. So we are not doing the physical shares this year. In fact, the first night we are going to gather all the shares, put them in an envelope with the child's name on it, and then collect all those. And then we will be converting them to electronic points that we're going to keep in our recording software. So Kathy's for years have had a software license that allows us to keep track of all the progress of kids. Within that is a capability of keeping track of points as well. We've never really utilized it, but we are going to start this year. so that we're not passing shares around. We can just keep track of that electronically. So the secretaries will be in the rooms taking attendance when the kids come in, giving them their credit for their points for that. And then, and of course, any sections that they pass. And down the road, we'll figure out what to do about utilizing those points, whether it'll be store or not. I mean, we are, for the time being, not planning on doing the store, but hopefully down the road, when conditions warrant and allow, then we'll be able to have a store again, or figure out some means of being able to spend those points that they've earned. We have made room assignments for or set up throughout the church, the various rooms. So quickly, where are folks at? So cubbies for staff only. So there's about a half a dozen kids probably going to be part of cubbies. They'll be in the toddler room where we have a dedicated bathroom, so they don't have to run out. And that area is set up for them. They'll be down in the toddler room. Kindergarten will be in the children's church room in the basement part there where they have been in the past. And that room has been repainted, new carpet, and set up nicely for the kindergarten to be in there. The first grade and second grade will both be up in the Family Life Center. The first grade, at least tentatively, we're planning on them being on the west side or the kitchen side of the room there. We have tables set up, properly spaced with four chairs at a table. And we have 6 tables up there for the combination of kids and adults. So can accommodate around 20-25 kids in that. On the east side of the Family Life Centers, where we're tentatively planning for the second graders, and again, a number of tables set up there and socially distanced and able to use that. In the Awana Game Circle room, we'll put the 3rd and 4th grade TNT, boys and girls. We've got 10 tables set up in there, nicely spaced, and for them to be able to utilize for both small group and large group times together. The 5th, 6th grade will be in the sanctuary, and there's plenty of place to spread out. Trek, our junior high, will be in the library to begin with, we think, subject to change depending on how many register. And then our high school or journey will be up in the youth room where they had been meeting in the past. I say tentative for all of these simply because they are they're different capacities for rooms and assignments, and it really depends on the number of kids that get registered and what we need for space to keep everyone apart. So in particular, probably most worried about the high school group, because I could see that we get a number of kids to register there that will exceed the capacity of that room, and we might have to flip-flop some rooms around. So just keep that in mind. Thank you for your flexibility in that. But we'll know a lot more at the end of this week when registration closes. So that is an encouragement, if you have kids, to make sure you do pre-register and let us know so that we can factor that into to the planning. Registration does close this September 3rd, end of this week. One other note on the small groups, we mentioned Trek and Journey. They will be meeting simultaneously when everyone else is meeting for their Bible studies. That means no LITs in the various rooms to help out this year. We think we're okay from a staffing standpoint. While we can always use 1 or 2 more, we do think that we're in a pretty good spot. So again, thank you for volunteering and being part of that. We do have a number of new volunteers this year, in addition to many of the experienced ones. So again, all depends on the registrations that come in. So if if we literally had every kid register that was active last year, then we're going to struggle in a number of ways. One, our facility won't handle that from a social distance standpoint. If everybody does register, then we would switch to a AB model, where we would have to split the families into two groups, where one group would meet one week and the other group would meet the next week. And just purely from a social distancing standpoint to spread that out. So last year we probably had, in the neighborhood of 250 bodies in church at any one given time between adults and kids on a typical night. This year, as we've gone around and set up the rooms, we think there's roughly capacity for in the neighborhood of 150. So about 60% of what we've had in the past. So that will dictate, when we start reaching those maxes per room, we'll first, kind of shuffle around and do what we can there. But, at some point, if we get more registering, then we'll need to flip to the AB model. We'll take our cues from the school as to whether we end up, having to go virtual or not. As mentioned before, we will interject. The director will have the opportunity to interject some fun activities, whether that is Bible searches or trivia or minute-to-win-it type contests, anything to kind of keep the kids active and engaged, certainly allowable to do that. So I think that about covers it for this first record. Is about where I got to the point where remember to hit the record button. And so we'll pick it up from there in session 2 and finish up on those fun activities and then go into how closing and dismissal will work, as well as Q&A and some final reminders. So thanks. So with that, again, interjecting fun activities. Then we come to the closing of the evening time, where we've got announcements, prayer time, get the coats on, get ready to leave. We do not want you just to release the kids when you're done. So dismissal will work a little bit differently. To avoid the big crowds in the foyer, we are going to ask that parents stay in their cars, and that instead of parking, we are going to try and utilize all 3 lanes that we have. The alley will turn to one way, north to south, similar as we've got on the street side, where it's already one way, and we've got the 2 lanes there. So that's the 3 lanes. We'll ask cars to start to park in rows, and we're going to provide each of the cars with a colored sign with their family name on it that they'll put up in their window, and so that we can see pretty readily. Then we've bought a dozen walkie-talkies that there'll be 3-ish, 4 of us, however, outside watching cars as they come. There'll be 1 or 2 of us in the foyer, but then each of the directors or somebody assigned to this in each of the rooms will have a walkie-talkie. And as cars come up, as parents come up, we'll call off those names, and then the kids will dismiss. So it will be fairly important to be really ready for the kids to leave when their name is called, so that they'll be queued up. So we'll have to be pretty diligent of being done right at 7:30. And when their name is called, then they will come to the foyer and gather as a sibling group, and then head out the door. We will also announce which door to go out, obviously. East or west or street or alley, I guess, is probably going to be a better description. Not everybody understands the directions there, but and we'll have a leader in the foyer also listening and directing kids one way or the other. We'll see how that goes. I'm sure it will be a little confusing the first couple weeks, but I do think that with a little training, this can actually work out pretty well. we know some school districts do this. We've experienced ourselves up in Ames as we've babysat for some of our nieces and nephews. And what it does is, you start to see enough names and you kind of go back the cars in the list and you're calling 2 or 3, deep in the list and getting those kids kind of queued up and coming out. And I think that flow can actually work pretty well. Time will tell, right? So we'll give that a try. Then when the kids are dismissed, we are going to have a couple bottles of disinfectant in each of the rooms, and we're going to ask that each of the leaders, a couple of leaders, just help us out at the end, just to spray down the tables, chairs, and that would just the whole divide and conquer aspect of the cleaning really makes life easier. We've seen this work pretty well on Sunday mornings, where we have 3 or 4 of us, each with a squirt bottle, and going through the sanctuary, squirting the pews off, and it takes us 5-ish minutes. It's really very quick and pretty easy. So we would ask you to help us in any other obvious areas, doorknobs, whatever gets highly touched in a particular night. That is how a night will hopefully work and look at Awana. We are following sort of the school's lead, in the sense that if the school were to shut down and go all virtual, highly likely we would do that with our club as well. I just cannot imagine. I mean, maybe there's a scenario out there, but it's hard for me to imagine where the school shuts down because of kids, some positive rate going on, that we somehow could keep the kids together ourselves. I just don't see that scenario playing out. There is a scenario where a particular class may get sent home for a few days at school, but not the whole school. If it's the case, we will likely also take that same grade and ask them to stay home and do Awana at home for that week, or whatever time period that matches the school. We'll take a lot of lead from the school in that regard. We're also, from a cleaning standpoint, we'll have hand sanitizers in all the rooms and readily around the building, so we can do that. We have talked about standing at the door and spritzing hand sanitizer for everyone that comes in. I don't know that we've 100% decided on that yet or not. We'll kind of play that by ear. We have the church has purchased some touchless hand sanitizer stations now, so we'll put them at the doorways that the kids can use as they come in. What else? That again is about the evening. A couple of reminders, and then I'll open it up to Q&A. So a few other just kind of more random thoughts as how the night will go. For Sparks, in the past, we've had the reward room to help occupy some of the kids. No reward room this year, for at least the start. Again, we don't want kids going through the hallways and gathering for that. So no reward room. Because you'll be signing sections, I would encourage each of you to bring your own pen. We will have a supply of pens, but again, we probably don't want to get in a situation where you're borrowing a pen, throwing it back in the group bucket to get intermingled with all the rest. We're going to try and buy a pretty good size of disposable cheap pens. If you need one, keep it, take it home, but better yet, if you just bring your own and use it. There are There is a junior high and high school group that will be meeting, but they will be meeting simultaneously with all the other groups during the Bible studies. And so that means there are no LITs that'll be in amongst the rooms. So you'll have no high school or junior high support in the rooms this year. We don't want them to come in and then go out. Same sort of concept there. So LITs will be in their own Bible studies during this. We have asked everyone to wear a face mask, or a face covering where medically allowed. We've got already one request I know from a child who has a doctor's excuse not to wear one, and that's okay. When they can have a shield on, so a plastic shield. We do have about a dozen plastic shields that we've ordered for anyone that would want one of those instead. You just have to let us know. We have gone ahead and bought a mask for everyone. We've got some children's-sized masks and some adult masks that we'll hand out one to everyone. You're of course not required to use that particular mask. We ran out of time, and I did a little searching to try and find a custom maker of masks to try and put our own logo on it and customize it. And just from a cost and time standpoint, that didn't come together. So these would be just kind of generic masks, and again, just add to your collection if nothing else. We do have a few plexiglass table sneeze shields that if anyone wants that as just another extra measure of comfort. We've had a couple of requests for some, and that's great. I'll have 6 made up ahead of time, and I can make more if need be, but again, you just have to let me know how many I might need to make so that I can get them made. And if you want one after club starts and decide you want one, that's fine too. We'll get that figured out. The first night of Awana, one of the things that we're going to do is collect all the shares from the kids that they've stored up from last year. So instead of having them float around and get lost and dropped and all of that, we are going to collect them and put them in an envelope, and then we're going to give them with their name on it, and then we'll give them credit on our electronic software. We can convert the shares to points, just 1 share equals 1 point, and we'll keep track of points electronically in our software this year. We have no plans to do a store this fall, but we are hopeful that conditions will allow us to do something, later in the year as we see it able to. If not, we will brainstorm other ways of somehow being able to recognize those points in some way, shape, or form with some sort of a reward system. But we did want to let you know that the first night or first couple of weeks, we will be asking you to help us collect those and then get them turned into the secretaries in each of the rooms. Speaking of software, we, of course, as you know, have had Awana recording software for years, but it's been a single license desktop version that Kathy has ran and used. But we have converted to a cloud license and this year, and with that comes 15 user licenses. It's not the full admin license that the administrator can get and do things in the software, but it does allow these 15 folks to enter and record progress for the kids and take attendance and get access to the database and see the progress of kids, see any medical conditions, allergies, things like that, phone numbers that might be needed. So each of the secretaries will be given access to that, and each of the directors as well. So
Sparks and TNT directors.
Sparks and TNT directors, yeah. So
and commanders.
Commanders, yeah. So Trek Journey, you really still won't have a real need for it. We'll get you covered like we have in the past, but for everyone else.
It's actually more confusing the way they have it organized in Trek and Journey. So it would actually be more confusing for you than what we've done in the past. So.
A couple things we're still working on. We know in the Sparks book there's a Bring a Friend section, but also in the new Grace in Action book, the new edition of that is they brought the Bring a Friend section back in that book as well, and that's the book that all of TNT will be using. So we do need to work through how the Grace and or the Bring a Friend section will work. We are looking at some alternatives. We have debated a little bit. There's we're not going to do the Bring a Friend night, theme night, because we can't handle all those kids the same night. But it just seems too counter to me not to be able to tell kids, no, you can't bring a friend to Awana. That I just can't see saying that. So bringing a friend is still certainly allowable, still certainly encouraged. It's just we won't do it all on one night. Throughout the year, as they are, still able to invite friends, and to the extent that we've got capacity in our rooms, because there will be, unfortunately, probably some caps that if we bump up against, we'll have to be sensitive to that. But so they still can bring a friend, but we will probably develop some alternatives rather than bringing them just to Awana. They might have some other alternatives as well. Working on some theme nights as to what those like. So we'll still do those, still have a little fun from time to time. And Clubber of the Month. We still want to do Clubber of the Month, but it will change because Clubber of the Month has a perfect attendance component to it. And we don't want somebody to come when they're feeling kind of questionable, but want to come just to get the, be eligible for that. Or the other thing that we're not going to do or emphasize this year is the Perfect Attendance Award. We just don't think that that's, for this year, the part to really emphasize, because we want people, if they're not feeling well, we want them to feel comfortable staying home. The last other thing I'll just mention is that we are doing an at-home version of Awana. So we are doing this in person, and that's our first choice. But for those situations where, for whatever reason, they're not comfortable, not able to, we are giving parents an option of an at-home Awana program. So it's not virtual. It's not that we're going to simulcast any of the classes that you're doing, but it is an at-home where the parent is acting as a leader just at their home. And we'll have some training materials we're putting together for parents for that, and encouraging them. We'll get them, they'll register just like any other family, and we'll get the materials to them. And as they pass sections, they'll need to send in a photo of their signature by their parent, and then we'll keep track of it just like we are any other kids' progress, and get them the awards that they've earned. All right, well, with me talking now for about 30 minutes straight, I am going to pause, take a breath. That was a lot to take in and digest. So I will give Anna, Jay, any opportunity, anything I missed to jump in there, and any leader or anybody wants to say, have a question or anything, raise your hand. Diana, and don't forget to unmute when you get called on.
You mentioned if Bondurant were to have a class that, had to stay home, like maybe all the first graders or whatever. There's a lot of kids that don't go to Bondurant. They might go to Ankeny or a private school or Altoona. So would they be still able to come to Awana that night, even though the Bondurant class isn't going to come?
Yeah, that's a great question, Diana, and we just have to do that kind of on an individual basis. We will look at our registrations We will see where we'll know most of the school districts.
Mhm.
We'll just assess that if we only have a couple kids, say from Ankeny as an example, as part of our club, and Ankeny, goes virtual or has that particular grade, we'll just have to assess that individually. My off the top of my head reaction is we're probably not going to shut down the club or shut down that class in that particular case. It's probably is more tied to Bondurant, but
Mhm.
again, if we've got a bunch of kids from that particular school district, that's really more the drive.
Right. Okay.
But I
Thank you.
think the opposite would be true. I think we need to ask families too, because we may not always be informed of situations in other places, that we would ask that families are abiding by school policies in their districts and following the same guidelines and bringing their kids to Awana. So we want to be clear about that. We want to keep people safe. And obviously with people coming from multiple locations and bringing them together, we're just going to try to encourage families to be smart. And I think we've seen this on the school side so far already, that families are taking this seriously and they're being smart about it, in terms of bringing kids into places that they could be with other kids and affect that. So I'm hoping that our families will do much the same, and we'll share that information with them.
Good question. Next one. And maybe it's not even a question. Maybe it's just a reaction to what I said, either good or bad. Kristen.
I guess I want to say thank you to you and Jay and Annalise. Clearly, you all have done a lot of planning and a lot of thinking about all the contingencies, and I think it certainly sounds very well thought out. Obviously, I'm sure there'll be some tweaks that we have to make, but I'm really impressed with the plan you all put together. Obviously, it sounds like there's been a lot of extra expenses just with supplies, if nothing else. Is there a need for additional monetary offering to the church for the Awana budget for this year? Is there ways that we can help with that?
It's a great question, Kristen. I hadn't really thought about that. We certainly are incurring some additional expense between the sanitizers, the walkie-talkies, the plexiglass, things like that. So to the extent that you feel in the mass, the extent that you feel led to give a little extra, it certainly would be appreciated. You could certainly market for Awana, but it's not necessarily critical either to do that. So we'll probably incur, in the neighborhood of $800-900 probably of extra expense for this particular year. It's certainly not overwhelming. The church is in pretty good financial shape at the moment, but again, that could always change too down the road. But we'll have a little bit of savings and expense because we won't have the store at least right away. So there's a little offset, not a lot, but thank you for thinking of that though. Yeah, Mindy.
I know like the school is doing groups A and B. Are we trying to keep kids somewhat in the same general groups that they're assigned to in school, or is that just too much to try to coordinate at this time?
Well, great point. So first off, I don't think we know what the AB school split is. At least I don't. Secondly, we are hoping actually to avoid that. We are intentionally not doing an AB split at the moment. We are prepared to do an AB split if need be. And what will drive that is the number of registrations. So that decision is really driven around the whole social distancing aspect of it. And if and this would be a group, kind of a good problem to have is if we get that many registrations, that much interest in Awana, that we cannot have the capacity, and then we will go to an AB plan where half the kids come one week and half the kids will come the other. Now we have, again, until we see who registers, really hard to kind of start developing lists. And we'd have to see if any of that is available from schools, but it would be Group A one Wednesday, Group B the following Wednesday, and we'd work with our directors as to how that would flow from a curriculum standpoint. If it would be teaching the same lesson, in 2 consecutive weeks, or if we would continue on the normal pace, but then expect more from the at-home part of it, and that could. We have talked to our directors about that possibility, and they're thinking about it, and we don't have a firm conclusion because I'm pretty confident that we won't have to start the year in that set. So we will, based on registration so far. So registration's been open for a week. We've had 30 families register, so 48 kids, 36 of them in person, 12 have chosen the at-home model. So 12 out of the 40. So it's running right at about 25% is choosing the at-home. And so with 36, there's plenty of capacity. We are emphasizing pre-registration. So we would ask you as a staff, if you have any kids, if you would please go ahead and pre-register. That is a requirement this year just to help us with staffing and planning of where to go. So, yeah, good reminder, Mindy, on that contingency plan. And one thing I told you I would tell you that I hadn't yet, so Kathy reminded me, from a location standpoint. So here's what we're thinking initially for room assignments. So kindergarten will be down in the children's church room downstairs. They will have that big room. It has been remodeled, so new carpet, paint, so it's looking good. We have set up some chairs and pods there. So we think that room can safely handle 20-ish bodies or so. And by bodies, I do mean adults and kids. They will also have all the rooms downstairs to be available to them. So we don't have anybody else in those little classrooms across the hall from the children's church room. The first and second grade will be up in the Family Life Center. We'll split that. So first grade will be on the kitchen end of that's the west side. And then the second grade will be on the east end, or the alleyway side of the Family Life Center. Those are some of actually turned out to be some of our bigger spaces. We could easily spread out tables, and we're putting four chairs to a table, and each of those can handle easily 20 plus kids, or bodies, I should say. The family, so that's the Family Life Center. So third and fourth grade, both the boys and girls, we've got tentatively planned for the Awana Game Circle room. That's the old sanctuary for those that remember that reference, but this is the north game circle. And we've got 10 nicely spaced tables up in there, so that whole space can handle a good 40 kids, or 40 bodies or so. Then 5th, 6th grade, tentatively in the sanctuary, so plenty of space there to spread out. And then Trek, which is our junior high, they'll be in the library. And then the high school, which is Journey, they'll be up in the youth room. Now there is a pretty good chance, if there's one group that I'm worried is probably not the wrong word, but where I think we're going to hit their capacity pretty quick, it's going to be actually that high school group. We've got a very strong high school group. That youth room up there is pretty small, so there is a good chance we'll be doing some flip-flopping, assuming registrations, seeing how those come in. But we'll, again, play that by ear. So that's the location side. Anna.
You may have already said this, but just to kind of clarify, especially TNT, Sparks, you're kind of with your grade levels, but TNT has been split boys and girls for several years. The reason we're going back to 3rd and 4th grade boys and girls together and 5th and 6th grade boys and girls together is we felt that those students are already probably exposed to each other a little bit more in the school setting, and we didn't want to cross-contaminate 3rd and 4th graders with 5th and 6th grade girls and vice versa. So just to understand kind of why we made that switch to go back, we just felt that it would help mitigate a little bit of risk as best we can while we're planning. So for TNT people, that's why we're doing that.
Yep.
And you didn't mention the cubbies. They're still going to be down in the toddler room with the cubbies that we have.
Yep, Kathy whispered that in my ear too while I was talking. So I forgot to mention cubbies. So cubbies, we have cubbies for staff. We had to make the unfortunate decision to limit cubbies to just staff instead of the full public, just from a number standpoint. They'll be in the toddler room. They have a dedicated bathroom there. We think the numbers of cubbies as we've counted them for staff is going to be in that 6 range, give or take 1 or 2. And that'll be right now they're at 5. So I think that'd be a comfortable spot for them. And so, Bob.
I have just a quick question coming back to the time together, the book time, and then the group time. Who's going to teach the group thing?
So that will
be a director or something?
Yeah, so that would be handled probably pretty similar to how it's been done in the past. So typically the directors have coordinated that, but it hasn't always been the director. The directors will coordinate it. That I'm pretty comfortable with. But they may ask a leader in a rotational type basis to teach a lesson, or they may take that on. We're giving a lot of that ownership and flexibility to the directors, and that part is something that they've always owned, is that lesson time.
Okay.
I will say, in talking with the TNT directors, the books that TNT have been doing have been a little bit more geared towards a longer small group time, with large group being a little bit more supplemental and just supporting what they're learning. So it seemed like TNT directors were kind of on board with kind of really infiltrating the two of those things together in their hour time a little bit more than what has happened in the past, because it's a little bit more flexible. So they can do a little bit more Bible study like kind of work, with also kind of going a little more in depth with those lessons. So I'm sure the directors will either night 1 or prior to night 1 be in touch and kind of let you know how they see how it's going to work with the leaders in their group. But yeah, I would encourage you to reach out to your directors if you have those questions about how that might go, because I know that they met with us earlier this week. And so I know that's in the back of their minds, kind of thinking about how things are going to go as well.
Okay, pretty much like it has in the past. That's good. Okay, does everybody know what their assignment is? Where they're working?
That's the next thing.
So the staff list, good reminder, Bob. So we do have a staff list. Pretty much everyone knows, but there are a couple that have volunteered. Like I know Bree Erickson, you let me know this morning that you're interested in being a leader. We have, which is fantastic, by the way. We have not assigned you yet, and there are a couple other ones that have been recent additions that, or have said that, hey, I'm willing to help out, but I don't, I'm flexible as to where you need me. And so, in part, we're waiting to see how the registrations come in to just finalize those final, 2 or 3 spots. So, thank you, Bree, for being part of that flexibility. And listeners, we haven't assigned you different rooms yet. I mean, we will do that. And if you have an age preference, by all means, just let me know, and we'll certainly try and accommodate that. But Alicia.
Yes. Okay. So I've got the littles, of course. Let's just pretend and my little friends need a mask break at some point. How would you like me to handle that situation? Just keep them spread apart as much as possible, or I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah.
It's a good question. That's a question I have not thought about to this point. So I'm open to anyone, answering that. But that is a good question. It's probably going to happen, right? It's probably going to come up, and so we do need to figure that out. Now, Cassie.
Sorry, I double tapped my mute. I know at preschool that they're doing, like they have little circles that are Velcro, and then everybody gets a circle, and as long as everybody's on their circles, they get a mask break. It might be an easy way, if some of them are already getting it at preschool, to kind of carry over that, so they'd already kind of have learned that routine. Just an idea. I know the little Velcro circles are like super cheap on Amazon. Just to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I don't have circles, but I have Velcro rectangles too that could work. So, and they're already here.
Yep. When we have we have rolls of the old Awana game tape too. The Velcro.
That's all Velcro that we can. It's a big long strip, but we can cut whatever we want.
Okay, that would be helpful. Thank you. We can
We'll get you some.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can see that being important for the cubbies. And you've got a small enough number where you can practically do that.
Where are the rooms if they need it?
Other things. Great questions. Good conversation, everyone. All right. Well, looks like we're getting everything answered. Hopefully that means we've done a fairly good job of communicating things to you between previous emails and this call. And if you think of something certainly afterwards, by all means, let's stay in communication. This is a group effort, and we know there will be changes as we get into the year. We start to see how the first few nights go. We will adapt. We need your feedback in that because you're our eyes and ears. So let us know as you see things, if you have ways to improve efficiencies, whatever. So hopefully, because just the fact that you joined, everyone's getting the emails from us in terms of staffing. And so if you have a preference, a different email preference, by all means, let us know that so we can get that in the database. Do you know who those phone numbers are?
Mm-mm.
So I've got a few phone numbers at the bottom. I just want to make sure as part of attendance so that we know who's here. So if I call out a couple of these phone numbers, if you could just unmute and identify yourself, that'd be great. So I know Helen, I know you 4097, and I know Amanda, you're ending in 3631. Who is 641-891-8277? You would unmute and let me know, that'd be great. Or you can put it in chat or text me later who you are if you're having trouble finding how to get off mute. 515-208-0193, ending in 0193. You could identify yourself.
That was Alicia Adkins. That's me. I got kicked off. My internet kicked me off on video, so I quickly joined by phone.
Good job. I did see your picture earlier there, so.
Yeah, and then it froze up on me and disconnected. So I thought, okay, so I don't miss too much, I'll just join by phone.
Okay. And then we've got a 319 area code ending in 1083. Oh, looks like 8277. You're off mute now. Who is that? Maybe, maybe not. All right, and then we've got one labeled owner. I don't know who owner is. So okay. Looks like Keisha Hoeksema, you're ending in 1083, I think, is the number we've got for you. Becky is owner. Okay, thank you. Perfect. Okay. Well, I think that's the exception, maybe one phone number, pretty much everybody. Last round of questions or comments. I will tell you, things are coming together. We're getting excited. It has been more work than normal. And at a time when I know my co-partners, Jay and Anna, have been, super busy trying to adapt to school as well. So they've got multiple things going on. So as I know many of you do as well as you try to be in this. So, there's, so 8277, that's Carrie Vanoy. So she said she was having trouble unmuting. So welcome, Carrie. Glad you're on. But I think this is going to work. We've got, we went through, set up the church yesterday. Kathy and I did. We've got, there's some surprising capacity. So last year we had probably in the neighborhood of 250 bodies in the church at any one time, between staff and kids. We think we've got enough capacity to handle about 150 safely on any one Awana night this year, between, again, staff and kids. So we can do this. Looking forward to it. And it will be good. The big thing is register, register, register. Well, Jay and Anna, any last words of wisdom from you? Jay or Anna, you go.
So quick little shout out here. I know Alex and Kathy worked really hard on getting the online registration up and going. For those of you that have already registered kids, I think this is a pretty seamless, awesome thing. COVID has not been super awesome for a lot of things, but some adaptations that we make will hold. And so I think this is a good option, maybe especially for families outside of our church, to get their kids registered. So if you know of families in your neighborhood, friends of your family that you know would register in the past or might just show up on night one, which has been a pretty large majority, I would say, send them a quick text message, tell them it's online registration, which is so much easier. If you need the link copied and pasted to you, let one of us know. We'd be happy to send that in a text message or whatever to you. But the more we can get registered, the better we will plan and the easier night one will be. So as much as we can continue to encourage families to register, especially those outside of our circle, I think the better position we'll be in come a week from Wednesday.
All the registration links are also on the website, church website. So all they have to do is go to the Awana page on the church website and it's all there.
All right. Jerry Grogan, would you mind closing us in prayer? If I, as long as I don't see one final call for questions, any hands I'm missing?
All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just come to you tonight, Lord, and Lord, we just want to be about your business, and really, Lord, even with all the stuff going on in the world, the one thing that Lord, we really are concerned about is people's salvation, and especially these kids' salvation. And we pray, Lord, that this year would be one that many come to know you. and not just through a verbal decision, but actually get close to you, Lord. I thank you, Lord, for all the volunteers here that come, the ones that have come for years and the ones that are brand new, Lord. You know exactly who's supposed to be here this year, and you've chosen them. Thank you for that. Thank you for the leaders, Gil and Anna and Jay, Lord, and what they've done, and Lord, you've chosen them just for the specific thing, even this year. Thank you for that. And so I pray, Lord, that you would keep us safe during these times. I pray, Lord, that you would adjust us any way that you need to adjust us. We give you full authority to do that. Thank you for being here at this meeting tonight and leading us to do this again this year. And we thank you for that. And so we just put it all in your hands because you're the one in control, not us. And we pray it all in Jesus' name. And all God's people said,
Amen.